Congratulations on your purchase of the White Industries Model O1060 Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center. The O1060 has achieved the UL listing for recovery and recycling of R12, meeting and exceeding Society of Automotive Engineers Standard J1990 and J1991 with regard to functional machine operation and purity of recycled refrigerant. The center is also UL listed for recovery of R22, R500, R502, and other applications of R12. However, the O1060 is not compatible for recovery of R134A. Contact your local White distributor for information on the proper equipment necessary to recover R134A. At White Industries, we pledge to be here to help you get up and running quickly, and that's the primary purpose of this tape. If it's convenient, we suggest you have your new O1060 nearby as you watch this video. To help you enjoy years of trouble-free service from your new O1060, in this video, we will cover the following 18 areas. What comes with your machine? Installing the wheels and casters. Installing the hose bracket. Installing the filter core. Installing the tank. Recovering and recycling refrigerant, a functional description. A couple of safety points. Recovering and recycling operations. Oil purge. The moisture indicator. Tank full condition. A high pressure condition. Purging the non-condensable gases. Using your recycled tank of refrigerant. Changing the filter core. Refrigerant changeover procedure. Factory recommended daily procedures. Warranty and toll-free number. That's a lot. So let's get started. What comes with your machine? Your new Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center includes the following: 2 50-pound DOT-approved refillable recovery tanks, 2 filter cores, 1 spring plate, 1 oil measuring cup, 2 front casters, 8 mounting screws and nuts, 1 axle, 2 rear wheels, 2 PAL nuts, 2 hose wrap brackets, 1 operations manual, 1 postage-paid warranty card, 1 Max Technician certification sheet, 1 equipment certification form, 1 environmental awareness poster, and a supply of tank labels with refrigerant identification. Installing the wheels and casters. First, you'll need to install the rear wheels on your Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center. To install the rear wheels, feed the axle through the holes on the back part of the machine. Next, slide a wheel onto the axle and center the PAL nut on the outside of the axle. Bracing the opposite end of the axle with a board, pound the PAL nut onto the axle until it's tight. Next, slide the other wheel on the remaining end of the axle and secure it with a second PAL nut. Be sure to install the rear wheels with the offset side of each wheel facing the sheet metal cabinet. Using the 8 provided screws and nuts, install the casters into the 4 holes provided in the cabinet here. Thread the screws through the holes, attach the nut, and tighten. Follow the same procedure for the second caster. Installing the hose brackets. Now you're ready to install the 2 hose brackets which provide convenient storage and prevent hose contamination when the hoses are not in use. With the screws provided, install the hose brackets on the side of the machine. Once the hose brackets are in place, wrap the long blue System Vapor hose and the long red System Liquid hose around the hose brackets, and then secure onto the hose storage mounting port. Installing the filter core. To install the filter core, you'll use a 9/16" wrench to remove the filter canister lid. Remove the lid and set it aside. Taped to the bottom of the filter canister, you'll find a key to use in opening up the filter core canister. Insert the key into the slot on the bottom of the canister, turn it slowly, and open the canister. You may or may not hear pressure releasing from the filter core canister as you open it. Either way, the new filter core will be perfectly all right. The sooner you install the filter core after removing it from the canister, the longer the core will last. So, install the core immediately after removing it from the canister. Extended exposure to air will cause the core to draw moisture from the air, reducing the core's moisture-absorbing capacity. With each new filter, we supply you with an extra gasket in the event the gasket in the filter canister is damaged. Install the filter core with the metal plate on top. Next, install the spring plate on top of the filter core with the spring facing up. Install the canister lid on top and tighten the nuts. When tightening these nuts, be sure to use a crossing pattern with between 10 to 15 foot-pounds torque. Failure to install the filter core and canister lid properly will result in machine malfunction. Now, release any pressure from the short blue liquid tank hose and connect to a vacuum pump. Evacuate the machine for a minimum of 30 minutes and continue until the moisture indicator turns green. Installing the tank. After installing the filter core, you're going to install the tank. After carefully removing the tank from the box, attach a vacuum pump to the red vapor port of the tank. Open the red vapor valve and pull a vacuum on the tank for approximately 2 hours. After pulling a vacuum on the tank, close the red vapor valve and remove the hose from the vapor port. The tank is now ready to be installed into the machine. Notice the short blue liquid tank hose, the short red vapor tank hose, and the black cord. Your recovery recycling machine can have either anti-blowback valves or hand valves on the ends of the short red and blue tank hoses. Connect the short blue liquid tank hose to the liquid valve and the short red vapor tank hose to the vapor valve. Open the blue liquid valve. If your unit has a hand valve on the end of the short blue tank liquid hose, open the hand valve as well. For those machines with hand valves, make sure that the opened or closed status of the hand valve matches the status of the tank valve. For example, if the red vapor valve on the tank is open, make sure the hand valve on the short red vapor hose is also open. Now, take the black cord and attach it to this corresponding connector on the tank. This cord senses the level of refrigerant in the tank. When the tank is full, the machine shuts down automatically. For safety reasons, the machine will not operate without this cord properly attached to the tank connector. On the tank, you will find the multiple refrigerant identification label. Using a bold marking pen, check the refrigerant you will be recovering into this tank. Please be careful not to mix refrigerants. Introducing different refrigerants into the same tank will completely contaminate all the refrigerants in the tank. Recovering and recycling a functional description. Before moving to the operation of the machine, let's trace the flow of refrigerant through the entire system. First, we have the machine connected to an air conditioning or refrigeration system, and we've depressed the cycle start switch. The refrigerant flows out of the system, through the hoses, and into a lower chamber of the filter shell. The oil separation process occurs in this chamber. The refrigerant enters here, where its velocity is reduced dramatically. This velocity drop allows the oil to separate and settle to the bottom of the canister. The refrigerant flows back up through the middle section of the filter core here. It flows through the walls of the core, through the desiccant material, which does the drying, and it comes out of this port on the upper end of the filter shell. The refrigerant moves past the check valve and into the compressor. From the compressor, it flows into the compressor oil separator. If the refrigerant picks up oil when flowing through the compressor oil separator removes this oil and returns it to the compressor sump. This very important feature protects the machine's compressor and provides consistent compressor lubrication. Then, the refrigerant that's completely dry and free of oil flows out of the compressor oil separator into the discharge cooling condenser. It comes out of the condenser and goes past the moisture indicator. From the moisture indicator, the refrigerant goes directly down to the tank. The most unique feature of the Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center's hydraulic design is its patented compressor oil separation return and its compressor balance startup condition. The oil that is removed by the compressor oil separator is returned to the compressor's sump by way of a time solenoid valve. The solenoid valve is closed when the compressor is operating. The solenoid valve will open for 5 seconds for every 15 minutes of any recovery process. This brief opening period allows the compressor oil separator to return oil to the compressor sump. When the compressor shuts down, the solenoid valve opens automatically. Whenever the compressor is not operating, the solenoid valve remains open. Allowing the solenoid valve to open once the compressor shuts down provides a balanced pressure startup condition as well as a maintenance-free compressor. This is a single-pass recovery recycling operation, meaning that the refrigerant comes out of the system, into the machine, through the filtration system, and into the tank. The refrigerant in the tank is clean and there is no separate recycling operation required. It is a true single-pass filtration system. A couple of safety tips. Now, before proceeding to the actual operation of the Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center, a word or two about safety. The Clean Air Act stipulates that a technician certified in refrigerant recovery and recycling be the only person to operate this machine. Information regarding certification has been included with your machine. Unless the operator has experience and training, unfortunate accidents can occur. Secondly, as common practice when working with refrigerants, the operator should always wear safety goggles. We know that sometimes you get in a hurry and can't find your goggles, but stop and do yourself and your eyes a favor. Find your goggles and use them. Protect yourself at all times. Now, let's get to the operation of your new machine. Recovering and recycling. Operations. The machine is now ready to recover and recycle refrigerant. Notice the 2 anti-blowback valve fittings on the long blue system vapor hose. This is the only hose necessary when recovering and recycling 6 pounds of refrigerant or less. To recover and recycle refrigerant, simply connect one of the 2 anti-blowback valves to the high side port and connect the second anti-blowback valve to the low side port. When recovering 6 pounds of refrigerant or less, you will not use the long red system liquid hose. When recovering more than 6 pounds of refrigerant, connect the long red system liquid hose to the high side port of the system and connect the long blue system vapor hose to the low side port of the system. Either anti-blowback valve fitting on the long blue system vapor hose will work fine. Be sure that when connecting the refrigerant recovery recycling machine to the system, that you properly connect the hoses and that you connect the hoses to the system access ports only. Also, make sure that you are recovering refrigerants other than R134A. Failure to do so could result in serious personal injury, extensive damage to your machine, and will void all warranty. Now, plug the machine into a standard 110-volt outlet. Check for positive pressure on the gauge to make sure there's refrigerant in the system. Notice the split switch on the front panel of the machine here. The button on the left is the on-off or power switch. When you turn this switch on, the fan turns on automatically. As long as the power switch is on, the fan will remain operating. To begin recovering and recycling refrigerant, depress and hold the cycle start button on the right side for approximately 3 seconds. When you depress the cycle start button, refrigerant will begin flowing across the moisture indicator and the system operating light will illuminate. You should see the system pressure gauge begin to drop. During this process, you may notice an intermittent surge of pressure caused by oil being returned to the compressor sump. This is a normal occurrence. The system will automatically shut off once the panel mount gauge reads 5 to 10 inches of mercury. The recovery and recycling of refrigerant is now complete. In most cases, this should take between 10 and 15 minutes. Although the machine has shut off, the fan will continue running as long as the main power switch is on. The fan does not need to remain on indefinitely. If you're going to service a series of systems in succession, we suggest you let the fan continue to run. Otherwise, turn the fan off by turning the main power switch to the off position. If you are connecting your refrigerant recovery recycling center to an air conditioning charging station, simply connect the refrigerant recovery recycling center's 8-foot blue system vapor hose to the purge port on the air conditioning charging station. If your air conditioning charging station does not have a purge port, you'll need to use a parallel kit that consists of 2 valves. Install the parallel kit on the high and low side ports of the air conditioning charging station. Connect the straight ends of the high and low charging hoses on the valves that are parallel, not perpendicular, with the ports of the charging station. Connect the blue system vapor hose and the red system liquid hose from the refrigerant recovery recycling center to the corresponding port on the parallel kit. Connect the remaining ends of the air conditioning charging hoses to the high and low ports of the system. Open the valves on the parallel kit, if applicable, and then open the purge valve on the air conditioning charging station. Then follow the previous instructions for starting your refrigerant recovery recycling machine. To begin charging, close off the valves of the parallel kit, if present, and the purge valve on the air conditioning charging station, and resume normal charging operations. Oil purge. To purge the oil that has been removed from the system during the recovery recycling process, simply depress and hold the purge valve when the panel gauge reads approximately 10 psi until the oil stops flowing into the oil cup located here. To determine how much oil was removed during the recovery process, simply read the cup, which is marked in both ounces and milliliters. Remember, it is not uncommon for no oil to be removed during any particular recovery recycling process. It doesn't always happen. Nonetheless, and let me emphasize this, you should always do the oil purge process during each recovery recycling operation just to make sure if any oil removed from the system has been purged. The moisture indicator. Before recovering refrigerant, the moisture indicator can vary in color. Therefore, it is very important to view the moisture indicator only during the oil purge process. If the indicator is green, the filter core is fine, and you may continue recovering and recycling similar refrigerant. However, if the moisture indicator is more yellow than green, it is time to change the filter core. Remember, the only time to view the moisture indicator to determine the condition of the core and the refrigerant is during the oil purge process. It takes approximately 1/4 pound of refrigerant passing through the moisture indicator to signal the condition of the refrigerant. Tank full condition. Your system also has a tank full light that will illuminate and automatically shut the system off once the recovery recycling tank becomes full of refrigerant. Once the tank reaches the maximum capacity, the patented liquid level electronic sensor shuts down the system. The tank full light also illuminates, and the system will not operate if the tank sensor cord is not properly attached to the tank receptacle. A high pressure condition. The high pressure light will illuminate when there's high pressure on the discharge side of the recovery recycling system. The three main conditions that cause high pressure are: 1. If you haven't opened the blue tank valve or the hand valve on the short blue tank liquid hose to allow refrigerant to flow to the tank. 2. If there's excessive air in the tank itself. Or 3. If the anti-blowback valve is not fully engaged. As a safety precaution, when the high-pressure light illuminates, the machine will not operate. You must remedy the high-pressure condition before the machine will operate again. Purging the non-condensable gases. Once the tank full light illuminates, indicating a tank full condition, or the high-pressure light illuminates, indicating a high-pressure condition, you'll need to purge the non-condensable gases or air from the tank. Before beginning this process, disconnect the hoses from the air conditioning system and be sure to allow sufficient time for the tank temperature to stabilize. Now, open the red vapor valve on the tank, and if your unit has a hand valve on the short red tank vapor hose, open the hand valve as well. Once opened, read the amount of pressure on the tank by looking at the gauge on the front panel of the machine. Make sure that the gauge has stabilized and is not moving up or down. After reading the pressure on the gauge and determining the ambient temperature in the room, refer to the R12 excess air chart. Find that temperature on the chart and look across to the corresponding gauge pressure. For refrigerant other than R12, refer to your operations manual for the correct chart. If the pressure on the gauge is higher than the pressure on the chart, depress and hold the purge valve until the pressure on the gauge has stabilized and is below the value on the chart. Allow the tank to stabilize for 10 minutes and check the pressure again. Repeat the process and purge again if necessary. Turn off the red vapor valve on the tank and, if present, close the hand valve on the short red tank vapor hose. Remove the hose from the red vapor port. Remember, the excess air chart located on the machine is applicable only to R12 recovery recycling standards. You will find additional excess air charts for recovery and recycling of other refrigerants such as R22, R500, and R502 in your operations manual. To restart the Recovery Recycling Center, simply reconnect all hoses, depress the power switch, turning the center on, and then depress the cycle start button for 3 seconds, using your recycled tank of refrigerant. After purging the non-condensable gases or air from the tank, you are now ready to use the recovered and recycled refrigerant. Close both the blue and red valves on the recovery recycled tank. If your unit has hand valves on the short red tank vapor hose and the short blue tank liquid hose, close the hand valves as well. Disconnect the hoses and black cord and remove the tank. You may now use this tank of refrigerant to charge an air conditioning system by connecting the refrigerant hose to the vapor valve with the tank in the inverted position. If you do not plan to use the tank immediately after removing it from the recovery recycling machine, be sure to close and cap all valves securely to prevent loss of refrigerant. You should then install a second tank, referring to your tank installation instructions. Changing the filter core. There are 2 conditions under which you need to change the filter core. One is when you recover and recycle different types of refrigerant, such as R12, R22, R500, and R502. The second is during the oil purge process and the moisture indicator shows a yellow condition. To change the filter core, first, remove the cap from the port on the filter shell and release any excess pressure by depressing the valve core. Next, remove the lid from the shell and take out the spring plate. Attach a magnet to the metal plate on the filter core. Remove the core and dispose of the used core in a responsible manner. Then, Install a new filter core by following the procedures covered earlier in this tape. Refrigerant changeover procedure. Your Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center is UL listed for recovery and recycling of R12 in mobile applications and meets SAE J1991 purity standards. The center is also UL listed for recovery of R22, R500, R502, and other applications of R12. These refrigerants pass through the same filtration system as R12. However, at this time, no standards for these recycled refrigerants have been established. Again, this machine is not designed to recover R134A. Using this machine to recover R134A will cause extensive damage to the machine and void all warranties. It is imperative that you follow the procedures each time you recover a different type of refrigerant. Change the filter core by following the filter core replacement procedures discussed previously in this videotape. Then, close both the blue and red valves on the recovery recycled tank. If your unit has hand valves on the short red vapor tank hose and blue liquid tank hose, close both hand valves as well. Disconnect the short blue and the short red hoses and the black cord. Remove the tank. Release any pressure from the short blue liquid tank hose. Connect the short blue liquid tank hose to a vacuum pump. Evacuate the machine for a minimum of 30 minutes and continue until the moisture indicator turns green. Next, install a new tank following the tank installation procedures. Be sure that the tank you install is either empty and completely evacuated or contains the same refrigerant that you are about to recover. Also, be sure the multiple refrigerant identification label is affixed to the tank and correctly marked for the type of refrigerant being recovered. You are now ready to recover refrigerant. Factory recommended daily procedures. Each day prior to using the machine, you should carefully examine your Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center to avoid potential problems. First, check for excessive air pressure in the recovery tank and on the system pressure gauge. Next, check for oil by pressing the purge valve. Discharge any oil present into the measuring cup. Also, make sure the tank full sensor cord is fully engaged. Every day, you should check the condition of all service hoses for contamination and pressure before connecting them to an air conditioning or refrigeration system. Make sure that all hoses are fully engaged at the tank connections. When the refrigerant recovery recycling machine is not in use, be sure to close both the liquid and the vapor valves on the tank, and if present, the hand valves on the hoses, and store all hoses properly. Warranty and toll-free number. Your Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center carries the industry's only 2-year unlimited parts and labor warranty. Along with the operations manual, located in the sheet metal pocket on the back of the machine, you will find a complete list of authorized service centers and your warranty card. To validate your warranty card and for us to serve you better in the future, please fill out your warranty card and send it into the factory. We've even made it easier for you. You'll notice the card has postage paid. All you have to do is fill it out and drop it in a mailbox. Our toll-free number, which you'll find on the back of your operator's manual and on the inside door of the machine, is 1-800-633-2827. If you need help in any way, just call us toll-free. We'll be glad to help. By following the simple procedures outlined in this videotape, you will be up and running quickly with your new Refrigerant Recovery Recycling Center. You will enjoy years of service and increased profits in your business. But more importantly, you will be helping recover and reuse material that, in the past, has been damaging our planet. By recovering and recycling refrigerant, you are contributing to a safer, better world for us all.